Risers and fallers in fantasy after week one. We're talking about that in today's video. As always, guys, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Help us get to 1,400 subscribers. And we're going to just kick it right off talking about Dylan Sampson. Now, in today's video, we're not just talking about good performers, bad performers. We're looking more at usage. What was the usage for these players? Because someone can have a good game, but their usage isn't quite there. They can have a bad game, but their usage was great. So we're talking about that in today's video. Dylan Sampson, 12 carries, 29 yards, 8 catches for 64 yards. So the 8 catches and 60 yards obviously saved him. What's kind of funny, though, is that Dylan Sampson didn't really play on he only played on 2 third-down snaps, and he didn't play in their 2-minute drill. That was Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford was more of the third-down type of player. And so it's encouraging to see Dylan Sampson catch the ball and get catches and be good, average over 8 yards per or average 8 yards per reception while not playing on third down. That could mean it might translate more into a little bit more long-term, like early down catches if Joe Flacco is going to throw as much as he did. So if we're getting the early down work, 12 carries from Dylan Sampson, 12 to 15 carries, let's say, plus he's going to always be a threat to catch 3-4 passes, I think we could have a pretty good season from Dylan Sampson. Now, Kayshon Judkins did sign. That could change things up a little bit. I'm hoping, because I'm a big Dylan Sampson fan, I'm hoping we still have Sampson for the most of September, and then maybe when Judkins starts to get a little bit more involved, it's still Sampson's still out there a decent amount, playing 50% of the snaps or so, kind of like what the Browns did with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Brenton Strange, pretty exciting if you are playing in Dynasty and you've held on to Brenton Strange these last couple of years, or if you drafted him in redraft because you saw the opportunity, or if you need a tight end because Kittle got hurt or something, you go out and potentially get Brenton Strange because he led the Jags in receiving. He caught 4 passes for 59 yards here. He didn't get the touchdown catch that went to Johnny Munt, unfortunately, but his snap percentage was good. He played in almost 80% of the snaps, 80% of the snaps in this game, which is really, really, really important for tight ends. For tight ends, either you have to be special, like Kelsey, McBride, Bowers, Kittle, or you just have to play a lot. Guys like Cade Otton, Cole Kmet, these type of players who are in the conversation for low-end tight end ones every single week are streamer tight ends is because they play a lot. And so Brenton Strange is playing almost 80% of the snaps. The usage was there, which means that he's going to be probably a pretty solid tight end to stream, or if you need a start a tight end this week because Kittle is out, pick him up. And I think Brenton Strange is going to give you this kind of type of production more weeks than not. Bucky Irving, 14 carries, 37 yards, 4 catches for only 8 yards and a touchdown. Now, disappointing. He did get the touchdown, so he gives you 45 total yards with 4 catches and then the touchdown. So he gets you over, 14 and a half PPR points. But his usage, it was really, really, really good. And it should translate into big games for Bucky Irving. Now, Rachaad White, I know, was dealing with some injuries and stuff like that. So, maybe they expand Rachaad White's role a little bit. But after week one, Bucky Irving played in 42 snaps compared to Rachaad White's 12. He played in 27 of the early down snaps compared to Rachaad White's 2. He was in there on short yardage, 8-1. Third down, that was Rachaad White's role, 6-2. And then 2-minute drill, one of the 2-minute drills went to Bucky Irving. So they're willing to use him in the 2-minute drill as well. I always talked about Bucky Irving, and, he caught, almost 50 passes or over 50 passes last year. I think he's a talented pass catcher. The yards weren't quite there. Now, just imagine if this stat line says 4 for 35 in the receptions, which is a little bit closer to what I expect him to get in terms of receiving yards if he's going to catch 4 passes. And then we're looking at a 70-yard, 4-catch, touchdown game, and we're excited, right? The usage for Bucky Irving was there. Don't be panicked that you didn't get a big game out of him, because I think it's going to come if this usage continues. Harold Fannin Jr., the rookie tight end for the Cleveland Browns. And I think we have potentially, is this an Isaiah Likely, or is this a 1-week fluke type of thing? I don't know. I think we might have something here with Harold Fannin Jr. Now, it's hard to ignore 9 targets, 7 catches, 63 yards as a tight end and not want to pick that up. I will say I wouldn't go overboard on spending up for Harold Fannin Jr. because the usage is kind of there for him. He played in 72.4% of the snaps Njoku 84.2. So they use both of them a lot. They played a decent amount of 2 and 3 tight end sets, which both Fannin and Njoku were out there. Njoku kind of dominated first and second down with one tight end on the field. He played 70% of the snaps compared to Fannin's 30. But then on third and fourth down, which are more passing downs, right? It was about 50-50 between Fannin and Njoku. So that's pretty intriguing there. I think he's worth a pickup for sure, but I would be a little bit hesitant on like going all in like someone did for Isaiah Likely last year. Now I know he didn't have quite the game that Likely did last year, but people are going to be excited because he's a rookie. He had huge production in college, right? And dominated in college, and people were pretty excited. So they're kind of using him as like their a slot wide receiver on passing downs. And if Flacco's going to continue to sling the ball around, then I think we got something exciting here for Harold Fannin Jr. Travis Etienne. I was talking about this a lot over the month of April and just being like, man, the value for Etienne is so damn good. And he was all the way down there. I don't know exactly where he lasted or finished up. We can check here where he finished on ADP by the end of the year, but I know he was very far down there. Consensus ADP for Travis Etienne was end of the 8th or middle of the 8th round. And I kind of was just like, I think that's really good value for a guy who is playing for a coach, Liam Cohen, who came from Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, and made 2 running backs, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, fantasy relevant last year. Now he's coming into this system. We could just be like totally overlooking Etienne because he had such a down year last year. And also, I know people are a little bit nervous about the running backs that they did bring in, Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen. But that being said, Bashal Tutin's a 4th-round pick, LaQuint Allen a 6th or 7th-round pick. I think we kind of totally overlooked this Etienne here. He played in 39 snaps compared to Tank Bigsby's 13, and Bashal Tutin's played in 4. LaQuint Allen actually played in 9. Early downs was Etienne. Short yardage, Etienne. 2-minute drill, Etienne. The only thing he didn't have was the 3rd down roll. That's actually LaQuint Allen, interestingly enough. But Etienne is dominating early downs, short yardage, and 2-minute drill. He gives you 16 carries for 143 yards, 3 catches. Etienne could just be a huge, huge steal if you drafted him in fantasy. And I expect this to continue. Etienne's a good running back. He had a down year, yes. He's a good running back that we were potentially getting in the 7th, 8th, 9th round of our fantasy drafts. I mean, this is the type of player that wins you leagues when you hit on someone this late, assuming you hit on other people earlier. Juwan Johnson had a career game, set 8 catches for 76 yards. Juwan Johnson played in 98.7% of the snaps, guys. He literally played in every single snap except for like 1 or 2. 98.7% of the snaps. What did I just tell you when we talked about Brenton Strange? These tight ends that maybe aren't quite as special as the Bowers and the Kittles of the world. What do they need? They need to play. If you're out there almost 100% of the snaps, every single game you're going to fall into 3-4 catches. Now, it depends on what you do with those catches, but probably going to get anywhere from 30 to 40 yards minimum. We're talking about minimum here. And then you have the opportunity to get 50, 60, a touchdown, 5, 6, 7, 8 catches like Juwan Johnson. I totally believe that Juwan Johnson is the guy. Obviously Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau are on the PUP list. So Juwan Johnson's kind of like the last man standing here. And he's going to dominate the snap percentage, and he's going to be a very good tight end, at least until maybe all year, but at the very least until Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill come back. Now, snap percentage has been the issue for this player in Dalton Kincaid. 4 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. So he did find the end zone, and he had a good tight end week, right? Week 1, because he gave you almost 15 PPR points this week, which is great for a tight end. That being said, his snap rate did not improve at all, Dalton Kincaid. That was the issue. That's been the issue for Dalton Kincaid his first couple of years. Why hasn't he broken out yet? He's just not playing enough. He's not playing enough his first 2 years in the league. And part of the reason is, because of a guy like Dawson Knox, who is a professional tight end who kind of dominates the he does everything that you need a tight end to do, which maybe Dalton Kincaid lacks a little bit. Kincaid is Rookie year played in 63.4% of the snaps. Last year, he played in 56.7% of the snaps in the games he played. And then yesterday's game, 50.6% of the snaps. He's just playing over half of the snaps. And if that's going to be the case, guys, I don't think Kincaid's going to be a consistent tight end option. You're not going to get 4 for 50 and a touchdown every week if you're playing 50% of the snaps. And for that being said, I might just trade high on him if I can. If people are like, oh, this is the Dalton Kincaid, he has the name value and he's attached to the Bills. Now, I could be wrong. He could be very efficient. I'm just going to bank a little bit more on history tells us if you're a tight end not playing 70% of the snaps or more, you are usually very, very, very inconsistent. So it's nice to attach yourself to one of the best offenses. So if there is someone that can do it playing less than 70%, I do think, someone on a really good offense is the way to go. But it's the issue with these guys. It's the issue with Juwan Johnson all those years, right? He didn't play enough. Kincaid. It's the issue with Kyle Pitts. It's the issue with Chigakonkwo. These guys who are a little bit tweeners and not traditional tight ends sometimes just don't play enough. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Guys, we are probably one of the first channels, probably one of the first fantasy channels to talk about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. We talked about him all the way back in March. So if you need any reason to subscribe to the channel, it's for that reason only. 7th round rookie, and he kind of we got excited when we saw that Chris Rodriguez was put on he was a healthy scratch from the game. Now, Krosky-Merritt, here's the snap percentage for Krosky-Merritt. He played in 23 snaps. Austin Eckler led the team in snaps at the running back position with 31. Jeremy McNichols had 11. Early downs was mostly Krosky-Merritt, but Eckler was also there, 15 compared to Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's 21. Short yardage was actually Eckler, 3rd down and 2-minute drill. So interestingly enough, even though he had a good fantasy game, he gave us 82 yards and a touchdown. We are going to need to see a little bit more in terms of his usage. He needs to either dominate the early downs or he needs to get in on some of these 3rd down and 2-minute drills, because the 3rd down and 2-minute drills that went to Austin Eckler and Jeremy McNichols. And so Krosky-Merritt didn't even dominate the early down. So hopefully we see a little bit of an expanded role, or it could be a little bit just like Brian Robinson from last year, which if Krosky-Merritt, if Bill is a little bit more explosive, then that can actually be a role we can rely on. But it can also be a little bit of a trap back situation, which is essentially running backs that give you this kind of stat line, and if they don't get a touchdown, they're a big disappointment. Mark Andrews, 1 catch for 5 yards. This is a little bit scary here. I've been on the Mark Andrews train thinking, look, this guy started off the year terribly, still finishes like tight end 7 or what it was, led the NFL for tight ends and touchdowns. And I was like, Andy, he was coming off an injury and all of that. We'll see Mark Andrews get back. He was still rotating, even without Isaiah Likely here. He was rotating with Charlie Kohler and then Zaire Mitchell-Payton. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Payton. So Mark Andrews played in 75% of the snaps, but he was rotating a lot more than you would expect with Isaiah Likely out. And that's a little bit worrisome in my opinion. So, especially when the Ravens only throw the ball, 19, 20 times or whatever it was, it's a little bit worrisome. We're going to see Mark Andrews is going to get his, it's going to happen. We know that, but he might become a little bit more of a less consistent option. Not that dominant Mark Andrews that we are still kind of drafting him like, after the top tier guys, Andrews was kind of in that next tier of guys with Kelsey, Njoku, Laporta, guys like that. So it is worrisome for all of you Mark Andrews managers out there. TreVeyon Henderson, not as good as I was hoping, but still made up for it with his 6 catches. And again, if you're telling me that TreVeyon Henderson is going to have 6 catches, I'm going to think, okay, so then he had 50 yards receiving, right? He's going to average 8 to 10 yards per reception is how I'm thinking about it, right? And so he only gives you 24, only averages 4 yards per reception. But it was kind of surprising what his usage was. He was TreVeyon Henderson did not really play on the 3rd downs. TreVeyon Henderson played in 20 snaps compared to Ramondre Stevenson's 43. TreVeyon Henderson played in 14 early down snaps to Ramondre Stevenson's 23. Ramondre Stevenson played the goal line, the short yardage. Ramondre Stevenson played in more third down and 2-minute drill than TreVeyon Henderson. That is worrisome. That means until we see a little bit better usage from TreVeyon Henderson, we're not going to be able to rely on him. Now, he probably, he gave you 50 yards with 6 catches. So, he gave you something, right? But this is not what we were expecting him to be, the third down, 2-minute drill guy. And getting, the 14 early down snaps is great. But if you don't have the third down and 2-minute drill stuff, that's going to be really worrisome. I'm not saying, obviously not to cut him or anything, but that needs to improve. Ramondre Stevenson kind of dominated the snaps there, and that is worrisome because, Ramondre Stevenson's not like a slouch. I think TreVeyon's better, but Ramondre Stevenson is no slouch. Speaking of rookie running backs, RJ Harvey, man, the running back rotation for the Broncos is complicating, very, very complicating. It's complicating the system for fantasy, the situation for fantasy. So they use consistently 3 running backs. J.K. Dobbins, RJ Harvey, we all kind of knew. Tyler Beatty or Boutte, I forget if it's Boutte or Beatty, was also mixed in, which kind of throws a wrench into this whole thing. So how it all broke down, J.K. Dobbins, 39 snaps, RJ Harvey, 21, and Tyler Boutte or Beatty, 14. I'm going to call him Beatty because I'm not sure it's Boutte, 14 snaps, which is too much. That's way more than we expected from a third running back in this system. Early downs went to Dobbins. RJ Harvey also played in a decent amount, played in about 35-40% of the early downs work. Short yardage, went to mostly to Dobbins, but Harvey was also in there. Third downs, it was split. It was 2 to J.K. Dobbins, 3 to RJ Harvey, 5 to Tyler Beatty, and then 2-minute drills Tyler Beatty with RJ Harvey, with J.K. Dobbins as well. This is a mess, guys. This is a mess. This turns RJ Harvey potentially into a trap back if they're going to consistently do this. 6 carries and 70 yards. Like, if he didn't bust off that big run. Now, you expect a rookie running back to get more playing time. Like, that's what we expect from these guys, RJ Harvey, TreVeyon. But also, we drafted these guys. We drafted, Henderson in the 4th round. We drafted RJ Harvey in the 5th round. And we expected them to if we're drafting you that high, we're expecting you to kind of have the role week 1. It's just like, I can't wait till October. If I'm drafting you in the 4th round and you told me, oh, but, this guy's suspended for 4 games, that drops you a couple of rounds, right? Essentially, if we can't use these guys for fantasy football, like, this is going to be an issue because we drafted these guys as top tier players, and it might take a few weeks for them to really kick it into high gear. And that makes me a little bit nervous. It's only week 1. Things could easily change. Teams are going to go with their best players. But, man, that I was hoping more I knew Dobbins was going to be involved. But, I didn't expect Tyler Beatty to have that kind of significant role. Kayshon Boutte or Boutte. What a game from Kayshon. 6 catches, 103 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Kayshon Boutte is how you say it. Very exciting stuff here, and I think he should be added definitely in dynasty leagues, but also in redraft leagues. Like, he was playing in a majority of the snaps. He played in 58 of 71 snaps, which was more than any other wide receiver. He played in 2 wide receiver sets and 3 wide receiver sets. So he was out there not just in 3 wide receiver sets or anything like that. He was in 2 wide receiver sets as well. This is pretty exciting because he's just out there a lot. He's out there all the time. Some people are saying Stephon Diggs did not look very good. And so, we're talking about a wide receiver room of Demario Douglas, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams, Stephon Diggs. If Stephon Diggs is kind of over the hill, who's going to be catching passes for the Patriots? And Boutte, I think, is someone that we need to really take seriously. By the way, this guy at one point in college was like a legit NFL prospect, like maybe the top wide receiver draft prospect heading into a college year. And then he kind of flamed out his last couple of years at college, but he was like the real deal. Played at LSU. He was like the next LSU wide receiver to come out. And He had a big 2020 year, 735 yards in college as a freshman. And then he didn't really advance there. So what if he's kind of putting it all together now? It's something to consider. I think he definitely should be picked up off the waiver wire. Zach Charbonnet took a lot more work. This is worrisome too, man, because Kenneth Walker, another one of those running backs we were drafting in the 4th round, and Charbonnet really kind of dominated all the important stuff here. Charbonnet basically, they almost split early down stuff. It went. Kenneth Walker had a bit more early down work, but Charbonnet had the goal line. He dominated the 2-minute drill. He dominated the 3rd down. That's worrisome. That is worrisome. We need Kenneth Walker either at the goal line or in the 2-minute drill, or then 3rd down. It's Charbonnet who's doing all of that. So I was high on Kenneth Walker. I thought for sure we're going to get a top 12, all season long type of year from Kenneth Walker. It's not going to happen if Charbonnet is going to play this role. Now, that being said, Charbonnet or Walker did have some injuries and stuff like that and missed practice, so maybe they're kind of easing him back in. But after week 1 and what we know about Charbonnet and that he's a pretty good running back in his own right, like it is a bit worrisome here for Kenneth Walker managers. Kaleb Johnson, he might be a potential cut. Now, I know it's going to be hard to cut him because he was drafted in like 6th, 7th round, which I didn't really understand at that point. Like writing was on the wall with Kaleb Johnson. He was just not involved at all. He played in 2 snaps, if I'm seeing that right. He played in 2 snaps. Kenneth Gainwell, guys, he's going to be a little bit of a thorn in the side, not only for Kaleb, but for Jaylen Warren as well. Kenneth Gainwell split early downs work with Jaylen Warren. He had the 2-minute drill and the 3rd down stuff. So this is like red alert for this player, Kaleb Johnson, and a little bit for Jaylen Warren as well. I know it's going to be tough to like let these guys go, but like, man, we're just not seeing any. It's different from RJ Harvey, from TreVeyon Henderson. It's different from these guys. These guys were getting work. Kaleb Johnson's not getting any work. He's behind Kenneth Gainwell. It's not good. Not good for rookie year Kenneth Gainwell. Matthew Golden, Packers wide receiver. This is a big issue. We have another issue with the Packers wide receiver room, and it's becoming a little bit, if you guys, old school fantasy players remember, like Patriots running back room was just always something to avoid for decades, for multiple decades. And Packers wide receiver room is becoming a little bit like this. Like, I don't really know what to do here. Romeo Doubs was the only wide receiver to play more than 50% of the snaps, guys. More than 50% of the snaps. And that's not a whole lot. Like 50% is not a good number. Now Romeo Doubs played over 70, I believe it was. He was even under his limit or his normal usage. Matthew Golden did not play enough. Dontavian Wicks, all these guys didn't play enough. Matthew Golden played in 47.9% of the snaps. Golden, I know, was more of a bench guy. He was at the 7-8 turn, so he could be drafted as a starter in a lot of leagues here. So this is ugly, and this is the history of the Packers wide receivers. And by the way, the Packers offense looked good. So why should they change? Maybe they like this rotation. They want this. This is what they want. But that doesn't do us well for fantasy football. We can't rely on any of these players. Maybe Romeo Doubs is the only one we can rely on, and Tucker Kraft. So I don't know. It's all scary here. I mean, Jaden Reed also another player. If I had to choose right now, knowing what I know, I might go with Jaden Reed over Matthew Golden, just because I do believe in Jaden Reed's ability to do more with less. He played in 37.5% of the snaps, but I think he can take that 50-yard bomb, that carry, and kind of give you a good fantasy week on 4 touches. Whereas I don't know. I think Golden could do that, but I believe in Jaden Reed to do that a little bit more. So I like Matthew Golden a lot, but this is scary now. This is scary time. Tyrone Tracy, not a great stat line here. He gets 12 total touches, only gives you 35 yards. His usage was good. Now, this is a situation where it could be temporary, but Tyrone Tracy did play in almost 75% of his of the New York Giants offensive snaps. that was, way better than what he was doing last year. He dominated early downs. He was there majority in the goal line. Third down, short yardage. It was kind of all Tyrone Tracy. Now we'll see if they try to get Scadaboo a little bit up and going. Scadaboo and Singletary were kind of splitting everything else that Tracy wasn't out there for. But yeah, I'm usage is there for Tracy. Giants have a tough schedule for sure, so I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get out of Tracy, and do we see eventual kind of change of tide here? We could, but the usage was there, but it wasn't there for Dante Thornton. I know a lot of people were getting excited, especially in the dynasty community, about Dante Thornton getting, about being a little bit of a sleeper. He's a fourth round pick here for the Raiders, and he was, the rumor all the way back in like May or June. Oh, he's already playing with the ones. Which is great and all, but it didn't really play out this way. It was mostly Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker were the main two here. So I don't think Thornton's sleeper campaign is going to happen if he's not going to be out there. He needs to play in 2 wide receiver sets, and he wasn't. So I think the only fantasy wide receiver that really has any value here for the Raiders is Jacoby Myers. I know Tucker caught that bomb. I think he had like 50 yards and a touchdown. But it's Jacoby Myers, and that's it right now that we can rely on for fantasy production. Elic Ayomanor, however, was playing quite a lot. He won that wide receiver 2 job. Now, I knew this game for the Titans was going to be tough. That's why I was saying bench Ridley. He was hesitant on starting Tony Pollard. But Elic Ayomanor seemed to have won that job for the second wide receiver job for the Tennessee Titans. It's him and Ridley are out there on 2 wide receiver sets, and then Lockett comes in and plays the slot. Van Jefferson's still there and things like that, but it didn't lead to any fantasy value here. But it's a rookie wide receiver who's playing 75-80% of the snaps from week 1. If Cam Ward's the real deal, the production's going to come for Elic Ayomanor. And last but not least, it is Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, his stat line, it was PPR, through the roof, right? 10 catches. He gives you, he still gives you, 15 PPR points because he catches the ball. 10 of those come from his catches. But I do want to talk about Gibbs, and I kind of hinted and speculated about this during the offseason about Jahmyr Gibbs, and is the gap between him and Montgomery going to widen a little bit? Because if you could play Madden mode in the NFL and turn off injuries, Jahmyr Gibbs would never come off the field for the Lions. The Lions offense is better with Jahmyr Gibbs on the field. But injuries happen. He's too valuable to lose, so that's why Montgomery has his role. But I did speculate as just like, okay, Montgomery is getting a year older. Gibbs is in the prime. You have a special talent here in his prime. New offensive coordinator. Do they try to start transition a little bit more to Jahmyr Gibbs being kind of, it's not 1A, 1B. It's like Gibbs is playing 70% of the snaps. And that's what happened. He played in 70.2% of early down snaps. He played in 42 snaps compared to Montgomery's 23. He played in more majority of the early downs, short yardage. He had 1 more snap than Montgomery. And then third down, it was kind of, they both had 5 snaps there. So this is good news for Jahmyr Gibbs managers if you drafted him in the top 5 or 6. That was always the concern of like, man, do we really draft this guy in the top 6 knowing Montgomery's there? If he's going to get this type of usage, if he's going to play that much and he's going to play a majority of early down stuff, we know what he's going to do through the passing game. This Lions offense should be able to run the ball a little bit better. But if Jahmyr Gibbs is playing 65-70% of the snaps, that's really, really good news for you. That's all I have for you guys. Make sure to catch us live. We go live every single day tonight, Monday night after the Monday night game. Catch you guys all day.